yeah, we came prepared with all our snacks. We get out to Times Square, and a lot of other people had the same idea as us. We were not the only ones. There was like a million other people there, and we were like 7 blocks away from even seeing the stage. So being there in only an hour, I was ready to give up. I was like, I cannot believe we're doing this. This is insane. You can't even move. You're like this with people, strangers that you don't know, and you can't even look anywhere. You're just like looking what is in front of you. So for an hour, I was like, really, we should just leave now, like before we get it too far. Let's just call it a day. We tried, let's go into our hotel room and we can watch it on TV. That sounds better. And I think she was thinking the same thing, but neither one of us want to say it out loud because we're like, we came this far, but we stuck in there. And sure enough, we met some friends that night. The time passed. Next thing you know, 9 hours later, we're getting to see the ball drop. So yes, for 9 hours, I stood there. I think there's a picture up there. You can see the Times Square behind me. So there's just rows of people. The ball's out there at the end there, but didn't get to see the performers or anything. But so if you want to do this on the bucket list, you can come talk to me after, and I'll just give you the info and see if you really want to do it after. But yeah, talking about giving up. I think many of us have moments like this in our life. Whether it's, I was just talking to some people about some classes, just really challenging classes that you're just ready to throw in the towel. I think definitely this point in the semester too, right? You're just ready to give up. And it's something that happens many times in our life, and so I think it's important to talk about. And so we're in this series right now. You saw that video, Who Will You Be? It's been happening, we've been talking about this semester, kind of weaves through our nights, and if you can see the banner there, there's different words. I want to be more authentic, courageous, I want to be less fake, boring. And so we just realized, we recognize that as students, as people in general, you're daily becoming more of something, and if you don't make a choice, then you're going to keep becoming that. You got to choose who you want to become. And so the word tonight is perseverance. We're talking about how do you be a person that perseveres. And it's also unique because tonight, it's a focus of athlete night. We've been doing different ministry highlights. So last week, if you were with us, the Greek students hosted, and a couple weeks ago we had the Lafayette group host, and so tonight our athletes are hosting, and we just wanted to pick a topic that athletes encounter, things that athletes go through. And I think whether you're a sports fan or you consider yourself not very athletic, either way, I think we can really learn something from athletes. They're people that really persevere and know how to work hard. And so we're going to take a look at what it means to be a person that perseveres. So tonight, we're going to look at a passage, and before I get into it, just the word persevere is something, maybe you guys hear that a lot, but just so we're all on the same page, persevere means to persist in anything undertaken, maintain a purpose in spite of difficulty, obstacles, or discouragement, and continue steadfastly. So when it comes to our faith, why is persevering so important? It's something that's talked about throughout the Bible. If you read throughout the New Testament, there's many verses that talk about don't give up and hang in there and persevere. It's over and over again, we hear it. And so obviously it's important in the faith. I can even think of friends of mine, and as I do ministry more and more, you see people giving up in the faith. They're here maybe at university sometimes, other times they're not. They're giving up, and you're like, what's going on? Why is it so hard? Why is it so hard to follow God? Why can't we just be easy? Why can't it come naturally? But it's something hard to do, and so we're going to look at how to persevere in it. So yeah, we're going to look into that, and an example is in Paul. Paul talks about this in 1 Corinthians, and he gives us an analogy of persevering as an athlete. So let's see what Paul has to say. It's going to show up behind me. 1 Corinthians 9:24-27. Don't you realize that in a race, everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. So I run with purpose in every step. I am not just shadow boxing. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified. So we're going to learn a lot from Paul tonight about perseverance and how you can become a person of perseverance who knows how to run the race with perseverance by living out just a few principles that we can see in this. So the first one is identifying and realizing that we're all in a race. He's kind of using this race analogy throughout the whole time, and we're going to just keep with that through the night, and just that idea that we're all runners in a race. And for those of you tonight that are here and you consider yourself a Christian, that you've made that decision and you follow God in your day-to-day life, you are now a runner. Like it or not, you're a runner. I am not a big runner. I like to work out, but not just constantly running. And so, but tonight we're going to consider us all runners in this race. And as a runner, you know, as someone that runs, that you have to, it's a journey. It's not just a moment in time, but people that run races, it's a long journey, and you have to know that it's a process. And in the same way, our walk with God is that same way. It's a process, and it's not just this one moment. Maybe you made a decision when you were a young child that you remember just like going to church with your family. That was that moment, but our walk with God is a whole journey and a process. And hopefully you're not the same person you were 5 years ago, right? Looking down the room, that would be not good. There's some college students here that are just freshmen, so if you were the same as you were in like 8th grade or 9th grade, that would be bad. So hopefully, as time goes on, you mature and you're growing, and different life experiences, maybe mistakes made, help you grow into the person as you're growing and evolving. And we realize that we're on this continual race, and even just the race of our faith. And so we should constantly be growing in our faith. We shouldn't be stagnant and staying who we were just 5 years ago. So that's how Paul uses this analogy. He's saying, don't you realize you're all in a race, and you're all part of this race, whether you acknowledge it or not. The next principle that Paul talks about is in verse 24. Principle, run to win, is what he says. He says, don't you realize that in a race everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. So Paul is assuming something here. He's assuming that we all already know that. He's saying, don't you realize that one person wins? Well, I think with our society and our culture, things are a little different. And you guys all know the common phrase that everybody gets a medal, right? Everyone on a Little League team gets a trophy. These days, everyone is acknowledged and recognized, and we live in that kind of society that wants to recognize everybody. But the truth is, yeah, everyone only wins. It's Paul saying that there can only be one person that wins across the finish line. But this isn't exactly what Paul's trying to focus on, that one winner. He's saying, I'm going to read someone a little smarter than me the way they put it here, but they said, in the exercise of our faith, we should strive to be like that victor. Notice, though, that the aim isn't victory so much as a particular way of running the race. The comparison to our faith here is not the parallel of victory so much as the kind of effort and dedication victory requires. So we're going to focus more on that actual dedication that requires to be a winner. Not so much that one moment in time when you're the winner, but all that it takes to get to that point. So we're going to focus here on a little bit about training. I think as most athletes in the room can recognize training. You guys all go through some type of training. And as I've been learning about this topic and looking into it a little bit more, it's a pretty complex thing, a complex part of your sport. There's different methods. You can talk to different coaches that have maybe their different styles of training. There's a lot of different principles. I was a kinesiology major here at Cal State, and I learned a lot about how the body works in exercise. There's exercise physiology and how our body works in exercise, and it's pretty complex. And there's different components. There's the maintenance part of it. There's a whole mental side of training. There's what you eat, what goes in your body. And so I wanted to interview some athletes, actually talk to them about, make it more simple for me. What is so hard about training? So I talked to one of my friends. He's in the minor leagues right now for baseball, and he's been playing baseball his whole life. He's been striving to make it to the pros, and he said the hardest part about his training in baseball is to stay committed every day and to mentally stay into it. And I thought, for someone that he's spent almost like 15 to 20 years of his life playing baseball, he still every day has to stay committed and mentally commit to it. I was like, wow, that's really surprising. And again, everyone I talked to, I think that was something that came repeated. I interviewed some athletes here at Cal State, talked to a lot of you, and asked you guys, what was the hardest part about your training? And again, that just kept coming up. It's hard to stay motivated sometimes, and it feels hard when I have a lot of other things to do. It's hard to keep staying committed. And so I thought that was really interesting because it does parallel so much to our walk as Christians, that it actually is hard. It's hard some days to keep going in your faith. And you often hear people say, like, oh, Christianity or religion, that's for people that are weak and need a crutch, something to rely on. But I find I've been trying to follow the Lord for about over 20 years now, and it's hard. It's a hard thing to do every day. There's days you don't feel like it, and even someone that, my job is full-time ministry. My job is to talk about Jesus and talk to people about their faith. You would think, oh, that probably comes easier to her. She's got it down. It's still really hard every day to just wake up and commit to keep following the Lord. And following God can just be uncomfortable at times, and it requires extraordinary amount of time, energy, effort. And so I keep making these connections as I'm talking to athletes about their training, and I keep seeing, wow, that totally parallels to our faith too. I'd asked someone else about their training and how do people at the top of their sport in track and racing, what do they do? What makes them so good? Those are at the top. And one athlete told me that people at the top, their lifestyle is around running.